Wanted to wish everybody a very, very happy Wednesday. In the wonderful work vehicle at the moment, just got off of the motor grader, been working some roads out, trying to get down to a long lost cemetery, I guess is the best way I know how to put it. But it's been a little bit of a busy day, and sorry I probably look rough. When thinking about what I wanted to do for Wednesday night, I was giving some thought into something that just, I guess, popped into my mind. When I was a kid, probably maybe 14 years old, 14, 15, somewhere in that age range, my granddaddy used to come pick me up, and probably one of the most enjoyable times of my life, me and him would go and feed cows. He would be waiting when the school bus pulled up, and when the school bus showed up, there he was. We would get in the vehicle and go put out hay. And he believed in square bales. But I think what made it most enjoyable was not just that I was spending time with my granddaddy, but a lot of times we would sit before we would ever go through the gates, and we would listen to something that would come on the radio. And it was Paul Harvey's The Rest of the Story. And I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with it. There may be a few younger people who are watching this who have no idea what I'm talking about. But he would take a very common story, something that we all know, and he would go further into that story. And he would give you the end result of things that have happened because of that story, or things that happened leading up to it. Just interesting things that people don't know, or people don't really put two and two together. Well, in thinking of that, it made me think a good bit about a particular passage that's found in John chapter 6. And for time's sake, I won't go into reading it all. But you have at the very beginning of that chapter where Jesus feeds a large group of people. And in feeding this large group of people, you find that at the time they were essentially wanting to take him and make him a king. And Jesus walked on the water at that particular point in time. And then we look at it and as something that we tell our kids in Bible class, and we talk about how Jesus fed this large multitude of people. But a lot of times people just kind of stop there. And in doing that, they lose the real message that was behind it. Not just the miracles that had happened, but Jesus then later on in that passage decided to basically leave because they were going to try to make him a king. And in doing that, this large crowd woke up the next day and started looking for him. And they're looking and they're looking and they're looking and they're trying to find him and they're trying to find him. And they know the disciples left, but they know Jesus did not leave with the disciples. They finally find him. And they tell Jesus that they've been looking for him. And Jesus told them that they only were looking for him because of the food. You know, I think a lot of times when it comes to the rest of the story of our lives, we need to actually look and examine the reasoning behind the things that it is that we do. For us to be an effective Christian, motive has a lot to do with how effective of a Christian we really are. To be honest, there's nobody going to get to heaven off their mama's faith and off their daddy's faith. Grandma and grandpa don't matter. They don't have anything to do with us getting to heaven. What does matter is you yourself and the motives for what it is you do. That's easily said, but it's a lot harder thing to prove, because you see, nobody really wants to examine themselves. Even in the great love chapter, where it says, I look in the mirror dimly, but then clearly face to face. You see, sometimes we need to have a really long look at ourselves and understand why it is that we are doing what it is that we are doing to call ourselves a Christian. Because at the end of the day, Jesus knows the motives. He knows why and how, and He knows where your heart is. This Wednesday, I want us all to just take a few minutes to examine really where we're at as Christians and where it is that we are building up to when it comes to how we are perceived, not just how others perceive us, but how we perceive ourselves. Because having a real look at ourselves and determining why it is we do what we do will have a lot to do with us growing as Christians. It allows us to see our faults. It allows us to see the shortcomings that we have in our life and be able to make changes that are necessary. I hope each and every one of you have an absolutely blessed day. And I hope that we all take time to really examine ourselves, that we may all be better Christians. Because it's not just a race, it's a marathon. It's something you start, but you still have to finish. And every day can be a struggle, but we can do it. Thank you.